Okay, our final speaker needs no introduction for those who know him. Uh, for everyone else, he's one of the smartest programmers I've ever met. He's been instrumental to a lot of what happens at InRhythm. So, Mayank, please come up. All right.
So my story today is what 3 lines of code can do. It was really simple, 3 lines of code, but it made my life hell, and let's see how. Background. This whatever I'm talking about is for a live company which deals with the PI information for whole US, maybe more countries. But this specific case was related to PI information for all the consumers in US. We are talking about a application which was migrated from mainframe to Java, and the targets were to load all the historic data using the new platform. The daily data load volume was around 200 million records per day, and an hourly rate was 5 million records. So we are getting inflow of 200 million records, and hourly we are able to process 5 million records. This initiative was very key for the company to grow. So the weekly report from this application was directly pulled into the CEO's report. The stats of the system. I'm talking about a database system with a database of 500 gigabytes just for the primary schema, and it has 5 terabytes of data for the historic information. So I could say that almost everyone in here are part of the database. What happened? So this was a very simple system, but it had a lot of data load requirements. And if we were to go with the existing rate, then we could never meet the targets. And by the end of 2 years, we would create a backlog of 4 years. So it was that slow. The requirement was to keep the system running, but fix it and make it fast. We were rolling out release after release to fix one small thing which could make the system fast, or which could reduce the number of manual interventions when it was running at scale. So that was this was one more fix that we rolled out into production, and things were supposed to be way better after that. So we rolled this out into production, and the first thing, whoa, we have a bug. So immediately after we rolled out the thing into production, we found out that there is a bug. So some quick analysis of the bug. Everything looked okay. It's not corrupting any data. At max, it will fail a few jobs, but they can be reprocessed after we fix it. So nothing bad. Like, we can keep the production system running. Let's keep it running, and then we'll plan for a fix and then reprocess the failed jobs. But after everything, like the next morning, I come to the office and then I look at what production release went in last night. And then I see 3 lines of code which were suspicious, and those were the lines which were not discussed about. And then I started thinking about that in more details, and then found out that this could actually corrupt the data. So the system was in for around 24 hours, a little bit less than that, and it was corrupting the actual production data. So if I look at the 5 million transaction and our throughput, and if I multiply it by, let's say, 20 hours, then it's 40 million, 40, yeah, 400 million records which were updated. Now I'm in a bad spot because all these transactions ran through, and there is no way to roll back the data because the data backup policy was monthly, and it was almost end of the month. So I can't roll back the data because then I have to reprocess everything which I did in that whole month. So how do we do that? So first step to fixing it, or first step to identify what's the damage done. We stop all the jobs, we create copies of the table so that we can process it, and then we can see what's the impact. Parallelly, while we are creating copies of the production jobs or production data, we rolled out a fix which will at least fix the software so that we can resume the jobs after the backup is done. So this was an actual 8 hours of downtime for that system. But that was not easy. Like, it's creating a replica of a system which is being hit by the users to pull in the credit information, and also we are creating a copy of it on the live database. Plus, In order for me to do the analysis, we needed some index because there's massive amount of data and it cannot be like queried just like that. So we created a lot of indexes so that we can query for that. After that, it took us 3 hours to run those queries and isolate that the problem was for 150,000 records, which is not huge. So the impact is less, but how do we fix those 150,000 records? That's the next big question. The only way to fix that is first stop processing any more jobs from that particular customer. So we are getting data from any utility which you can think about, AT&T, Verizon, anything you name it, and the data was coming in from there. So we were able to isolate the impact for 2 vendors. So we stopped all the production jobs for those 2 vendors till we fixed the data. Everything else was nice. Then, okay, so we know the impact that these are the 150,000 customers impacted, and we have to clean it. How do we clean it? Find all the data for those consumers from all the historic files and reprocess them in the same sequence so that you get the new state, you get the exact state, and then you update it in the database, which is a huge job because it deals with a lot of files, massive files, which each file goes up to 40 GB, and then you have to process it in the same way, index it in the same way, and get the new output, and then replace it in the database. So we start building on a utility which can fix this thing for us. It took us 26 days to isolate all the raw files. 26 days of work just to isolate 150,000 consumer information from all the historic data. And then it took us 6 days to process them exactly in the same sequence so that we can get the same state of the consumer information which we can restore it in the database. So it's like 8 hours of data copy, 3 hours of analysis, 26 days for extracting the raw data, 6 more days for reprocessing it, and finally we were there. We could actually fix the data in the production system. Until that time, all that data for those 150,000 consumers was corrupt. Everything is normal. Lessons learned. First thing, whereas you were asking about unit tests, right? This is when I started respecting unit tests. Till then I used to hate writing unit tests, but then I thought like, okay, it's a good thing to have. Second thing, I wish I had Git and pull request. I was using SVN at that time and there was no way for me to merge or review the code which is merged and getting out into production. So that's like, Git is a big savior, and anyone not using Git, if any unfortunate folks, please start using it. Code reviews are good. I know it hurts when someone puts a comment on your code, but it's not for a bad reason. It's for a good reason. It can save you a lot. So yeah, that's what 3 lines of code did for my team for the whole month, and that was the nightmare that we had to live through. Thanks.